Hi everyone, Janie here, and today I'm going to be using this Coca Rosa Let It Snow background cutting die from InLoveArts to make a couple of winter themed cards. And the first one is going to be a shaker card using a DIY shaker pocket. For this card, I'm going to be die cutting gold foil cardstock and using my Sizzix Big Shot Switch Plus to cut this Let It Snow background die. And I honestly think that it is so beautiful, and even though there's a lot of weeding of the little pieces, I think it's worth it. And I cut a piece of snowflake scrapbook paper to the same size as the die cut so that it'll fit perfectly behind it when I make the shaker element. Okay, now let's move on and I'll show you how I make the shaker pocket. To make the shaker pocket, I'm using a piece of acetate, and right now it has a piece of tissue paper on the back, which makes it easier for you to see. And to make the shaker pocket, I need that acetate to be 1 inch larger each direction than the piece that I'm going to put in it. And what that will do is leave a 1/2 inch border all the way around. And with that in mind, I'm going to score that at a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to rotate it and score it at a 1/2 inch again, and I'm going to do that to all 4 edges of the piece of acetate, and that will create the pocket. And that piece of scrapbook paper will fit nicely in it. And if for any reason that it doesn't fit perfectly, sometimes you have to trim this down just a tiny bit to make sure it fits. So I'm going to remove that tissue paper now, and I am going to fold all of those edges in on the score lines that we just made, or well, I just made. And I'm going to bring over my craft mat because I think it'll make it easier for you to see. Okay, here we are, and as you can see, or hopefully you can see, there's a square in the corner. And we're going to cut that out. In fact, we're going to do more than that. We're going to kind of miter into it. And so I'm going to come in at an angle and an angle on the other side and remove that piece that wants to stick to my finger. And it will look like this. Let me see if I can find something else to put this up against so you can see what that looks like. It's really hard with this being clear, okay? But basically we've just mitered in on each side at an angle. And I'm going to do the same thing all the way around. And like I said, being clear, it is so hard to see. I'm going to try something else. I'm going to put this back on that tissue paper that it came off from and see if this helps at all. Okay, so we're at the corner and I'm coming in at an angle from that side, and then I'm coming in at an angle from the other side, and I'm just cutting into that corner and removing it, and and then it looks like that. So there you can see it better. Okay, it's really difficult working with something clear and trying to get it to show up on camera. So again, let me just cut it to that corner, and again, that's what it looks like. Okay, just like that. And so all 4 corners look like that. Of course, you can't tell there because it's not cut, but that is how all 4 corners look. And then the piece of pattern paper, scrapbook paper, is going to fit inside like that. And I'm going to be gluing all of these edges up except for one where I'm going to be putting the shaker bits. So let me get my glue and my tape. Okay, so because each of these sides is a 1/2 inch, I'm using 1/2 inch double-sided tape. And you know what? I may leave that paper in there just to make it easier for you to see that I'm just going to be putting this right along that edge, but obviously not where the paper is. And I'm going to be doing that on all four sides. I'm doing this on the inside so that when we fold it in, it sticks, okay? So we're not doing it on the outside, we're doing it on the inside. And so I'm going to do that on all four sides, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the tape on the inside of each side, as you can see, so it's right here on the inside. And what I like to do is take a piece of fabric softener sheet and just wipe the inside down. To help with static, I could use one of those little powder things, but I don't know where mine is right now, and I do prefer using a fabric softener sheet, and it smells good. Okay, so now I'm going to take that, stick it on the inside, and I'm going to be using a little Beacon 3-in-1. I know that I have the double-sided tape, but make sure I've got that going the right way. Yep. But I like to use a little beacon along with it just to make sure that it's going to stick really good. And make sure that that is centered. Okay, so I'm just going to start right down here. It doesn't matter which end you start at, but you do have to remember to keep one end open. Okay, so there we go. We'll just press that down here for a minute, and then I'm going to do each of the sides, and I'm going to leave the top open. That way I can get an idea on if I have enough shaker bits in there, and I'll show you that here in a minute. That's one of the advantages of using a pocket, is that you can, stand everything up and even fold the top over, even though you're not sealing it, and get a good look and say, is everything lined up right? So they're not necessarily lined up right, but I mean, is there enough, shaker bits? Sorry about that. I was thinking lined up while I was looking at that, which, by the way, you want to do that too. Make sure that everything is lined up good. And almost done here. So if you've never made a shaker pocket before, I think they're awesome because they're not as messy. You don't have shaker bits all over the place, and you don't have to use foam tape, which means it lays flat on a card in the envelope. So there's all kinds of advantages, and you can make these any size you want. Okay, so here we go. I have this open, and that's where I could put shaker bits in and then look at it and go, do I have enough in there or not? So that's what I'm doing next. Okay, I have a variety of shaker bits here. So these are from This Calls for Confetti, and they are cotton candy spun sugar. And I thought they'd be perfect. They're white, and they shake really well. They shake better than these kind of sequin things, so I thought if I mixed them in together, it would kind of help. I have no idea where I got these other ones, and I'm not even sure which ones I'm using. Or maybe I'll use a combination of all of them. So, let's do that. Let me open this up, and let me see if I can sprinkle a little bit in here. Okay, and for right now, I'm just sprinkling a little bit. And like I said, you can actually see what you're doing instead of trying to put them in a pile and then put your shaker thing on top and, hope that it all works out. I'm not really a good judge at that. So by doing it this way, I kind of get them in there and I can see what I've got and shake them around and, get an idea if I am happy with the way it's working out. So let's pour some of these in here. I honestly really love This Calls for Confetti. Those are my favorites. Okay, so I have it in there. And so as you can see, I can see how many I have. And I can shake them around, kind of get an idea of what's going on. Do I like that? Do I not? In fact, hold on a second. I'm going to grab the piece that I'm going to use as an overlay and put that over it and shake it and see how it looks. Yeah, I actually like it. I think I'll put a tiny bit more in and I think it'll be good. So here we go. Just sprinkle a few more of those in there. Kind of like those. And maybe a little bit more. Friend, this calls for confetti. Open that up. I just love, these are smooth, you know, I mean, I don't really get static issues with these, and they're flat, they shake easy, they help move things around. So I think I like that amount. I think that's good. So let me move this stuff out of the way. And now it's time to seal this end. So I'll be doing the same thing as I did all the way around. I'm going to be using my Beacon 3-in-1. And I don't cover the entire tape, okay? I just add it in drops, just kind of a drop here, drop there, drop there. Sometimes I've been known to put a whole streak, but you know, it only takes up a small part of the tape. But there we go. Let me get my lid back on my glue here. Okay, so we've got that done. And what I'm going to do next, and actually I could have done it first. Make sure everything's moving around here and not getting all clumped up. Okay, I need to put this on. Now, I'll be honest with you, this probably would have been easier to put on before I added the shaker bits, but I don't know, I thought I could see the shaker bits better without this on. So, to put this on, you can use whatever glue you want to go along all of these areas. I'm actually going to be using my Beacon 3-in-1, and I might even use a little spray adhesive because I do that sometimes. I'll show you what I use. I use this, and that way I get full coverage. So I really like it, but when I use this, I also use my Beacon 3-in-1. So I kind of put that on first and then spray this to make sure I get all the areas that I missed. And because I'm probably going to use some of the spray, I'm going to do this off camera because I can't spray around the camera and my laptop. So I'm going to do that, and I am just going to layer it right over the top of that pocket. Okay, there we go. That's on that part, and there's my shaker bits behind it. So much reflection, I don't think you can see them good, but they're there. Okay, now it's time to finish putting the card together. Okay, I'm using an A2 size card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've cut out a piece of white glitter paper, and I've cut the center out of it. I just wanted you to see that. This is my paper saving technique that I love. So the center has been cut out, but the outer border is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So it's going to fit perfectly on the front of this card. And I'm just going to glue that on. And a lot of you may say, well, why would you do that? You know, that takes time, and you know, to me it's worth it because glitter paper is not cheap, and any other specialty papers that I use, like a lot of my foils, I do that with the foils too, because then they go further. I guess I like to save money. I like to make my products go as far as they can. And so the piece that I cut out of the center can be used for something else. It doesn't have to be used like this. It could be, and you can layer something else on top of it. I can use this to die cut other things out of. and it just makes things go further. And I like to do that. I'm frugal. I'm a money saver. So I've got this on there, and now I'm going to glue this on. And as you see, just because of the size that this die was, it isn't a full A2 size. So it's going to have edges showing like that. Let me get that up there. So it's like little strips going down the side and a little bit across the top and bottom, but mostly down the sides. And to make sure that it sticks really good, I'm going to use a combination of my Beacon 3-in-1 and double-sided tape. You could use whatever size double-sided tape you want, or you can just use your wet glue, or you can just use the double-sided tape. But I'm using a 1/4 inch just because I don't want to use all of my 1/2 inch. The 1/2 inch tape that I have is really strong, and I like to save it for things that I need to be really strong, like making sure that this shaker pocket was sealed really well, or for a mini album. And I'm not saying that this 1/4 inch isn't strong, I'm just saying that the 1/2 inch was stronger. So I'm just putting this kind of around the edges. I'm going to put a strip right down the middle here. And then I'm going to add my Beacon 3-in-1 to the other areas. So I'm just going to peel this off. Oh, come on. Don't you love it when you can't get the release tape off? So a little backing here. So while I'm doing this, I would really love to know if you guys, prefer using double-sided tape instead of, a wet glue, or do you prefer using a wet glue instead of a double-sided tape? Or are you like me and you sometimes use both? Because they are a good combination together. Okay, so I'm going to add some glue right here in this spot that doesn't have any double-sided tape. And then I'm going to go right around the edge where the double-sided tape is not, because I don't see a purpose of going over the double-sided tape, especially in a situation like this. So I just want to make sure there's plenty of glue on here, because after all, we've got two things going here. First of all, we have the acetate, so it's nice and slippery and non-porous, and then it's going on to glitter paper, or at least around the edges it's going on to the glitter paper. And I hate to do this to you, I don't want to get my head in the way, but I really want to be right over the top of this so that I can get it lined up good. And to be honest, it's easier for me to do not on camera, but you know what? I think I've got it good enough. Okay, so I'm just going to press that down. Now, one of the things that I like to do in situations like this is use my cuddle bug plates and turn this over face down and place those on the back just to give it a little weight to hold it a minute while the glue kind of takes hold. And here it is finished, and I think that that die makes a perfect shaker card. And with all the reflection, I know that it's hard to see, and I'll try to get some better pictures for you, but it is just so beautiful. I love it. Okay, let's move on to card number 2. This time I'm using white glitter cardstock for a sparkly snow look. And I love this better than the gold, but on that shaker card I was worried that if I used white it would blend in too much with the snowflakes behind it. Okay, and just like with the last card, I cut this piece so that it fits nicely behind the die cut. And this time I'm not making a shaker card, but I am using the same technique to glue this to to this piece right here. So I'm going to go use my Beacon 3-in-1 and that spray adhesive, and I'll be right back. And there it is. And I love the white glitter paper. I think that looks more like snow. And it looks beautiful against that the paper with the blue and the white and the gold. It is so pretty. Okay, so to put this card together, again, I'm using an A2 size card base. And like before, I cut the center out. And I'll be saving that for something else. And I'll be gluing this to the front of the card. And if you are wondering about, well, how do I cut the center out? Okay, well, for this particular one, I used my paper trimmer and I cut a 1/2 inch border on each side. Sometimes I like to use a cutting die. Whether I use one that is a rectangle or a square or an oval or a circle, it doesn't matter. If I'm thinking, okay, this is something that I can maybe use again. Maybe I need a stitched oval. And so then I'll just cut the stitched oval out of the center. Or, it just depends. So there's a lot of ways to do this. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the glue off my fingers here. There are a lot of ways to do it. Not everybody has the type of paper trimmer that they can use to do this, because obviously you have to be able to see where a 1/2 inch is. And I like doing a 1/2 inch. That doesn't mean that, if you did this, you have to do a 1/2 inch. But a 1/2 inch leaves a good border. If you are doing something that's just, a 1/4 of an inch smaller, it'll fit perfectly around there. You can do a whole inch. You can do, like I said, just cut anything you want out of the center. Okay, so I've got that on there. And now I'm just going to glue that on there. And this time I'm just using my Beacon 3-in-1. I don't need to use any double-sided tape for this because this is going to hold just fine. Sorry, I have to get the glue off my fingers. So I'm just adding glue right here around the edges. I'm trying to not get too close to the edge because if it smears out, the foil cardstock is not forgiving at all. So if it gets on that, it can take the foil off. It can leave smudge marks that you're going to wish were not there. And so I try to not get too close to the edge on this. Okay. So again, I really need to get my head over this, making sure that my card is opening the right direction. Okay. And like I said, the foil is not forgiving, so in situations like this, it's really important to get it in place the first time, which it looks like I did. So I'm really happy with that. And I won't rub over it from that side. I like to turn it over and kind of rub it down on the back just to make sure that it is adhered really well. And there we go. I think that is so beautiful. And so those are the ways that I use that die: as a shaker, not a shaker. And this one I used gold over the top because I didn't want the white to blend in with all the white on the card. I didn't know if it would distort the letters or not, so I decided to go with the gold. And I thought that was good because this one is blue, white, and gold. So now this one is blue and white and gold. But you could do it however you want, in whatever colors you want, with whatever backgrounds you want. I just think that this is really beautiful. And honestly, you could add snowflakes to the outside of it as well. That would be really pretty too. Maybe I might think about doing that, adding a few of those little snowflakes that I use for shaker bits and just add a couple on the outside. I'll think about it. But there you go, and I will get some better pictures for you to look at. I think this Let It Snow cutting die is perfect for winter themed cards or Christmas cards. And because it covers the front of the card, it makes it quick and easy to make beautiful cards, whether they are flat or shaker cards. So, if you're interested, I'll have a link below in the description box to this cutting die, as well as a 25% off discount code to InLoveArts should you decide to shop there. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and happy crafting, everyone. Bye-bye.